Hey, welcome to FunNGun. Got a cool little plinker on the table for you today. But before we get into that, I want to say up front right here that no firearms in this video are for sale. None of the links in this video, none of the codes in this video have anything to do with firearm sales whatsoever. This video is intended for educational purpose only. So if YouTube could just go ahead and leave me alone, I would really appreciate it. I also want to say a big thanks to Celia Optics for bringing me on as an affiliate of their brand. If you're looking for a good red dot sight, it's not going to break the bank. You can use the link in the description below there to go ahead and open up the website and then use code FunNGun at checkout to get 10% off nearly everything on there. That is also going to help out the channel a little bit there as well. I also want to say a big thanks to Blue Line Solutions for getting me the HSR here out for this video. So what we're going to go ahead and do now is do a safety check here. Show you there's nothing in the magazine. There is nothing in the chamber there. I'll visually inspect it as well because it's a little bit hard to see the way the ejection port is done on that little gun. So what we're going to start off here with is what the gun comes with. We'll get into a little bit of the history on the gun, kind of what it is derived from. We'll go over the features of the gun. We'll go over the ammo test, or we'll get into the ammo test, and then after that we'll do some suppressor testing and ammo testing kind of at the same time there. We'll come back, we'll go over some of the rounds the gun liked, some of the rounds the gun did not like. We'll go over the threaded barrel adapter and just some more information in general, and I'll go ahead and try to put this into different chapters at the bottom there so you can kind of just find what you're looking for as well. So the first thing that you're going to get with the gun is one metal 10-round magazine with a plastic follower and a plastic little pinky extension right there, which works very well, giving you a full kind of grip on the gun there. Now, I will say right here, being a 10-round magazine, I would have liked the gun to at least come with 2 magazines, but they are easy enough to get. They're not currently, as the time of filming this video, actually on their site, but you can call them up and get more magazines. They do have them in stock. The next thing you're going to get is this nice plastic case right here with the Mauser logo kind of molded into it there, and it's also going to say made in Germany right there because this is actually made by GSG for Mauser. And on the inside right here, you're going to get a extra recoil spring here. It's going to be a little bit softer. We'll get into that more later in the video because I actually did mess with that a little bit. You're going to get a dummy round, a chamber flag, an Allen wrench right there to use to change out your extra sights here. And these are metal sights with a little plastic inserts in them to make them brighter. And what this is actually for here is you have a taller one and a shorter one, and then the medium one's installed on the gun from the factory, and that's going to allow you to adjust your elevation, and then you can actually slide them side to side to adjust your windage. Now, I didn't actually mess with that whatsoever because this gun was actually dead on when I put it on the paper, so haven't changed those out myself yet. And you get the tool to take the little muzzle adapter or the protector off so you can put the threaded barrel adapter on there. We'll get to that later on in the video as well. And then you also get your owner's manual there. So that is what the gun comes with. Let's go ahead and get that out of the way. And like I said there, we'll get into a little bit of kind of the history of the gun and what guns this was derived from. So the gun this is kind of loosely based off of is going to be the Mauser HSc, and that's where this gets the HSR from, the R being for rimfire. And that was a gun way back in the day that was kind of meant to compete with the Walthers back in the day. And that's kind of where it gets its profile from. And I believe that's also where it got the slide mounted safety there from. And that's going to bring us into what this gun is definitely based off of. And that is going to be the SIG P232. And that is because actually in Germany, GSG, SIG, and a couple other companies fall under the same umbrella company. So that allows them to be kind of made the same way. That's why the SIG 221911 used to be made by GSG, and they still had the GSG, and the SIG, what is this? Can't remember what the SIG calls, the Mosquito. That's how those guns were all made by GSG because they're all under the same parent company over there. So originally SIG was making the actual P232, and then at some point they decided they didn't want to mess with it anymore, and that allowed Mauser to come in and start making the HSR here, which is essentially the exact same gun as the 22 version of the P320 or the P32. Yeah, 232. That's easier to say. Okay. Now, I might have messed that up a little bit, but that is kind of the basic history of the gun based off of me just talking to Ruzik, the president of Blue Line Solutions. So, like I said, I might have mixed that up a little bit, but this is definitely derived from the SIG P232 more than anything. And then it just has the safety on the slide, which I didn't see any pictures of the SIG with that on there, so that's why I'm saying that is derived from the original HSc. So that is a little bit of the history, and that means that You should be able to, I believe, actually pick up the SIG grips if you wanted to change them out. I don't know why you would, because this has some really pretty wood grips on it. But if you got one of the other two versions that just come with the plastic grips, that would give you possibly a few options. And I believe Hogue actually used to make a grip as well, so gives you little options there. So there actually is 3 variations of this gun, this being the kind of the higher end version of it, coming in at $297.99 as the MSRP. Like I said, none of these guns are for sale YouTube, so just chill. This is just for educational purposes only. And then they have a 2 more versions, one of them being fully black on the bottom with a silver slide and plastic grips. That one is $274.99. And then the base one being the full black one with plastic grips being $269.99. And action-wise, they're all the same. They just have they just have kind of different colors to them and grips. So that's the variations of the gun you can pick up currently. And I went ahead and told them I wanted the wooden grip version of it because, well, the wood grip version looks absolutely awesome in my opinion. This is a really nice set of wood grips. Has nice checkering in it. Has the Mauser logo in it, and that is done very well. I really like the way these grips look. They feel very nice. The checkering has a nice grip to it. And the only thing you got to be careful here is the grips actually extend a little bit beyond the actual frame there, as you can see. So when you go to put the magazines in there, you got to make sure you got them in there straight, because you don't want to bang them into that. You could possibly chip your grip off, and that wouldn't look very nice. But overall, really nice set of grips. Feel really nice, look really nice, and that's why I went with the wood version of it. And also, these seams meet up really nice in the back of it. Just overall fit and feel of these grips are done very well. So that's going to bring us up to, let's see, let's go ahead and, like I said, I was talking about the mag well here. You're not going to have any flare because this is more of a traditional style gun prior to everybody flaring the mag wells and everything, but easy enough to get the magazine in there. And it's not going to be a flush fit. It's going to stick out a little bit, and you're going to have that pinky extension I mentioned a second ago. That's going to give you a nice full grip, and it's going to prevent your hand from sliding off the gun while you're shooting it. So that is a nice little feature there. And I will say right here that the magazines did not just fly out of the gun like that. Now, that might not be the case with all of them, but I went in and I'll put some pictures off to the side. I took a little bit of material off of the back of the magazine release, so when I'd push the button, it wasn't actually still having any parts sticking out into the mag well. I just wanted the magazine to fly out of there a little easier. That wasn't a huge deal. It would come out to about right there. Most of the time you could just pull it out either way. That was just something I just went ahead and did because it was simple enough. So that's going to bring us up up to a few more features here. And that is something that's a little bit different that I did not mention. That's definitely different than the original HSC. Is going to be the magazine release button, because it was a more European style heel release. So they kind of went ahead and Americanized it a little bit there when they brought it over, or they made this. I think the actual, let me look here. I didn't look that up. But no, yeah, the SIG was also, I believe, a heel release. So the HSR here is the first one to have the magazine release button right there. So that is a nice thing, in my opinion. It just kind of Americanizes a little bit there. And up from that is going to bring you to your hammer decocker right there. And I'm going to go ahead and cut to a little clip of me messing with that to show you how it works right here. Okay, going to go ahead and show you how the decocker works on this little gun. As you can see there, it is on fire. It is now chambered. The hammer is back. Go ahead and flick the lever down, and the hammer is back forward. And you are ready to fire in double action now. And that right there is how the decocker works on this little gun. Let's head back into the table now. So as you can see there, that is how the decocker works right there. It works pretty well. Not something I'll probably use just a whole lot, but it does give you the ability to have a double action shot for the first shot, and you can carry the gun essentially in the decock position, ready to fire. So you could go ahead, like I did there, drop it and load the gun, have the safety off, put it into this position, and you're going to have the long pull of the trigger there as your safety. And that just gives you another option there if you did want to carry this gun. So let's go ahead, and you have a stop, slide, release. This gun does lock open on empty with most ammos, and it is easy enough to go ahead and drop the slide with that right there. And your safeties are ambidextrous, and they are, if you have a longer thumb, I have a smaller hand, I have a medium-sized glove, but usually you're going to be able to reach that from your shooting position. I can actually go ahead and flick it on and off pretty easily, and you can also do it with your trigger finger as well. So not the most practical place for a safety, but it's easy enough to reach because of how small this little gun actually is. So not a big deal. Nice positive safety in the up and down position if you choose to use it, and that is metal levers on both sides as well. So that's going to bring us up to let's go ahead and talk about the slide serrations here. They are plenty enough, and they also, that's something else the safeties kind of double as, is more traction on the slide. So that's pretty cool as well. Also forgot to mention that the up position is the off position and the down position is the safe position, and that is going to be shown with the red dot on both sides of the gun there. So overall, has a relatively smooth slide, and it needs to, being a 22, it's going to make it run a little bit easier, or smoother, obviously, with different ammos. And that's going to bring us to the trigger. Now, the trigger is a little bit odd on this, and I haven't done it yet, but I'll go ahead and insert the picture off to the side showing the trigger weight here. But yeah, you're not supposed to dry fire a 22, but that's the kind of the nifty thing about this. If you put the safety on, you can still pull the trigger, and that is because this is a hammer block safety, and it does actually talk about being able to dry fire this gun, so it's not going to mess up anything. So you got a little bit of take up there, and you got a pretty nice break there. And here's the weird part: the reset kind of just feels a little odd, and it's not just a forced reset. You kind of got to go ahead and let it reset, and it can go all the way back out to there. Now, that's not something you're going to notice pretty well whatsoever when you're shooting the gun. It's just something you notice when you are trying to just check the trigger. It just kind of feels weird, but it's not something I notice, like I said, when I'm shooting the gun. Now, let me show you the double action on this. It has a smooth double action, but it's pretty heavy. I'll try to insert that off to the side there if the trigger gauge will actually pick up the weight of it. But right there is going to be your double action brake. Now, like I said, it's nice and smooth, just kind of heavy. But it does give you the ability with 22, if you have a light primer strike for some reason, or just a kind of a round that's not going, if the round doesn't go off on the first time, that gives you the second strike capability, as you've seen there in the intro when I had one round didn't want to go off. Now, that's not really the gun's fault that it was, more or less just cheap ammo, and the fact that I had the gun was pretty dirty at that point in time. So let's go ahead and talk about the sights here. I did mention that you have the ability to adjust and interchange the rear sights. Now, the rear two dots here are very bright. Now, the only thing here is, since the front sight is made into the actual slide itself, it is going to be kind of dull because it's just painted down in there. And something I've kicked around the idea of doing is making that a brighter orange with some paint, and possibly blacking out these two dots. And if I end up doing that, I'll probably show you that at the end of the video if I've done it by that point. And the top of the slide here does have some ridges to go ahead and knock down on the glare, which I didn't have an issue with. And disassembling of this little gun, like I said, YouTube, this is for educational purposes only, so don't freak out here. You flick down the little lever, you're going to come back, pull up on it, and just take it off right there. This is a fixed barrel design. Right there is how your, let's see here, how the gun locks open is going to be this piece right here. And that gives you a good look at the hammer and just how everything is set up on the inside of this little gun right here. And then the way I usually put this back together can be a little bit of a pain, but also while we got it off right here, this is going to be the part you take off to put the threaded barrel adapter in there. So you're going to put your spring back on, and you kind of got to fiddle with it a little bit to clear the tip of the barrel there. Put it back on, flick the lever back, and you are done cleaning the gun and ready to go. Well, you're done putting the gun back together after cleaning it, and you're ready to go. So relatively simple to take apart, or if you need to swap the spring out like I showed come with there, it is quick enough to do. So that is pretty much all the features on the gun. What we're going to go ahead and do now is I'm going to hand you off to the part of the video where I'm testing ammo, and then we'll go ahead and, like I said, show you me testing the suppressor as well and some different ammos, and then we'll come back. We'll go over some of the ammos the gun liked, didn't like, and just some more stuff about the gun in general. So let's go ahead and head to the ammo part right now. Okay, we're out here on the range. We're going to go ahead and do the ammo test part of this video. The way we're going to do this is I have multiple magazines loaded up with 2 different rounds apiece, 5 rounds in each because they are 10 rounds. What we're going to do here is I'm going to shoot 5 rounds, pause for a second, and then shoot the other 5 rounds. And then in the corner of the screen, I'll go ahead and put a picture showing the specs for the ammo and what ammo I am shooting at that particular time. So let's go ahead and start this off now. That was a failure to feed. that last round did not lock the gun open. I'm actually kind of surprised that Federal actually ran there. I had quite a bit of issues with that, running it in bulk, testing it. We'll get more on that later in the video. Okay, as you can see there with the M22, we did have a light primer strike, which is something I've had a lot of issues with Winchester in the past. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and stop right there with the Herder's ammo because I did have a lot of issues with that, testing it off camera. That is why it was loaded in the bottom part of the magazine there, because it does not seem to like this gun, or the gun does not seem to like it, that is. So we're gonna go ahead and load up a few more and we'll continue with the ammo test. Had one failure to fire right there at the first set of rounds. And one more failure to fire with the last set of rounds there. Now that we've kind of finished testing the more standard rounds or the bulk ammo, it's the easier to find stuff, we're gonna go ahead and check out some of the higher velocity rounds I have now. Okay, got a few more magazines loaded up here with some of the hotter 22 ammo I have on hand. This would be a representation of something you would possibly carry in this if you're gonna use that as a self-defense gun. Not exactly something I recommend. 380 and up is really my preferred route, but hey, to each their own. So we're gonna go ahead and try these out. And I will say I haven't tested any of these rounds in this gun, so let's go ahead and see if they'll cycle now. Yep, got a failure to feed right there. Failure to go all the way into battery. Okay. Had a few failures out of the Veloster there. Let's go ahead and move on to the next mag here. I got a failure to feed, and I'm going to go ahead and completely clear that round because it did completely destroy it. I'll insert a picture of that round off to the side there. Okay, now at this point, I plan on shooting this gun suppressed. At this time, I do not have the suppressor adapter, so if you don't see that part of the video, I have not got that in yet. But if you do, I have got it in, obviously. So let's go ahead and head to that part of the video if we can. Okay, ended up getting the threaded barrel adapter for the HSR here and got my Sergeant switchback fitted up on there. So we're gonna go ahead and test some ammos with this gun suppressed, see how that cycles. We're gonna go ahead and continue doing 5, pausing, shooting 5 more, but the only real difference in this part of the test is gonna be I'm gonna be shooting at the target down at the 30-yard line. That way I can have a little bit of fun shooting at something and you're still gonna get a good idea of how quiet this is. I'll go ahead and fire a couple of each of them off into the woods as well. And you're gonna be hearing everything from this little lapel mic right here so you get a good idea of what it sounds like at the shooter's ear. So let's go ahead and shoot some rounds to this gun suppressed now. Okay, go ahead and swap the next magazine here. And that round did not lock the magazine or the gun open, but a lot of these subsonic rounds do not lock the gun open, as you will see here. So we're gonna go ahead and move to the last mag here, and it's only got 1 round in it, and that's a good reason because this gun does not like the Aguila. So let's go ahead and see if we can get at least 5 rounds to cycle through so I can show you. And got our first jam there. And did not cycle the slide. Jammed again. Didn't set that round off. And it jammed again on the last round. So as you can see there, this particular gun does not like the Aguila ammo pretty much at all. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go head back into the table, talk about a few of these ammos, kind of which ones I prefer, which one the guns prefers, and we'll go over a few more things. So let's go head back into the table now. Okay, I figured out of fairness to the Aguila ammo, I would go ahead and fit the gun with the lighter spring that is included to see if it would cycle any better. So before we head into the table, let's go ahead and give that a try. Failure to fully eject the case. And as you can see there with the lighter spring installed into the gun, the Aguila ammo does run quite a bit better. Still not the best ammo choice for the gun in my opinion. So now let's head into the table and check this out a little bit closer. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about some of the results from the ammo test here. Now as you can see here, this is definitely not all of the rounds that I tested. So I'm going to go ahead and say right here, if you don't see a round on the table that I tested, there's a good reason why. It either did not perform as well off camera as it did on camera, or it just didn't perform well at all, as you've seen there on camera, or it's just something that you can't really get anymore. I don't believe they make this Gemtech 22 suppressor ammo anymore. So that is why it's not on the table, even though it did perform just fine. So we're going to go ahead and start off on the far right side here with this Winchester M22. Now I will say that did have some jams out of this and some light primer strikes, but I did shoot more of this in the gun than pretty much anything else other than maybe this Blazer. So the only reason it's on the table is that I did have pretty good reliability out of it, and it's something you can pick up in bulk pretty much anywhere. So if you're willing to deal with a few jams and stuff, this will get you something to plink with this particular gun. And like I said, it has some light primer strikes, but the fact that the gun has the double strike capability where you can just keep pulling the trigger, it usually went off on the second pull of the trigger in double action mode. So that is why that's on the table there. That's going to bring us to the Fiocchi field dynamic here. As you've seen there in the testing, I did get failure to fully feed the round. Now the gun was getting a little dirty at that point, but either way, this round did perform pretty well off camera, so that is why it's on the table. Now I will say that I did not fire a whole lot of this, but it did perform well when I did, and that also goes for pretty much this whole roll. I did not shoot a whole lot of any of these rounds, but they did perform well when I did. Didn't have any jams or anything out of them other than like that. Well, I said that one in the testing there with the Fiocchi. So Winchester Wildcat here is essentially the same thing as the M22 that I just showed you there. It is a 40 grain moving at 1,255 feet per second, as is the M22 there. And the only real difference in this is plated, or it's copper plated, so it's going to be a little bit cleaner, and it stands the chance to feed a little bit better in a lot of guns, and I didn't have any issues with this. But like I said, didn't test as much of it as the M22, so this is another option of something you can pick up easily as a plinking round. And that's going to bring us to the Winchester Target and Plinking, which is another 40 grain moving at 1,255 feet per second. Not completely sure what the difference in this and the M22 is, but this round, the little I did test it actually performed just fine as well. And that is also going to go for the Remington Golden Bullet here. This is I believe it's a 36 grain bullet. And I know a lot of people is going to hate on the Golden Bullet, but I have shot a lot of this over the years. I used to buy the buckets of bullets pretty often when they were actually a good deal, and I have shot this in quite a few different guns and had pretty good luck out of it, so that is why it's on the table. And that's going to bring us to the hotter rounds here that we tested. And the one right here is going to be the Winchester, obviously Super X. Now I will say, these are the ones like I mentioned earlier. If you're going to carry this gun, these would be the ones I would recommend for that. And the one out of the two that I would recommend over the other is going to be the Stanger here. That's because it is CCI. You're going to have a little bit more reliability out of it. I feel like overall, like I said, I've had issues with Winchester rounds having light primer strikes in the past, and I continue to have that with different batches I buy. So if you're going to carry the gun, I would recommend checking out the Stangers. So that is the harder rounds that I did test in the gun. That's going to bring us to the standard velocity rounds. This arms core did run just fine, but the problem with the arms core is it is a little bit harder to find in stores. So I do recommend it function-wise, but being able to find it's a little bit harder. Now, as a suppressor ammo, this Federal American Eagle 45 grain moving at 970 feet per second did cycle the gun just fine. I will say that I did notice with the heavier bullet there, and this is not me just making excuses, as you can see there, if you go back and watch that part of the video, I was not hitting the target at 30 yards as easily with this round as I was the other, and that also goes off camera, and I believe that's because it's a little bit heavier, it's falling off a little bit, and it's also moving slower. So that round did perform just fine. The main reason I wouldn't recommend this is because you can just buy this standard velocity right here. It is a 40 grain round moving at 1,070 feet per second. This stuff is easy to find, and it's going to be significantly cheaper than the Federal there. And in a handgun, this is what you're going for. If you're going for this super duper quiet in a rifle, the Federal is going to get you there. But overall, if you're going to shoot it suppressed and you just want it to be pretty darn quiet, the standard is going to be the recommendation for that. that is going to bring us to the mini mags here and the Blazer and the Federal. This is going to be the overall, if you're just looking to plink around with a gun, that I had the best luck out of. Obviously, mini mags are going to work. Blazer is essentially the same thing, but like the Federal, this is a plated round. This is not, but this is going to be cheaper. So that is going to be my overall recommendation, and this is what I shoot in pretty much everything. And that's, like I said, I shot more of that than just about anything in the gun. And then the Federal here, the small game 40 grain, is going to be 5 feet per second faster than those two. Those are 1335 or 1235, and this is 1240. So these 3 rounds are going to be the recommended just overall plinking rounds. They're going to cost a little bit more, but if you're looking for the utmost in reliability, those are the 3 that I recommend. So let's go ahead and bring the gun back in to the shot right here. I'm going to show you that it is unloaded again. There is nothing in the magazine there. There is nothing in the chamber. We're going to go ahead and talk about shooting this gun suppressed, and I got to say it is an absolute blast. It looks really cool, in my opinion, with the suppressor on the end of it as well. Now, there's a few things to shooting it suppressed right now. Okay, so the first one being is you have to have the adapter here, which is going to replace the barrel nut right there that I mentioned earlier that you use the little wrench to take off. And that's going to allow you to put the suppressor on the end of it here and give you your 1/2 by 28 threads. Let me go ahead and take the suppressor off here. And that's going to give you the 1/2 by 28 threads you need to put the suppressor on there. Now, the thing about it is I actually had a buddy of mine make me this particular adapter so I could go ahead and get the video out. Blue Line Solutions does have the adapters coming. So if you pick one of these guns up and you're looking to shoot it suppressed, and at the time of making this video, they do not currently have them, but they will have them very soon. So if you're looking to shoot it suppressed, go ahead and shoot them a message about that and see about getting you an adapter as well. Now, if they don't have it when you reach out to them, you can go ahead and drop me a comment below or hit me up on my Facebook page, and I can see about getting you in contact with my buddy to get you one of his here so you can go ahead and start shooting the gun suppressed, because it does make an awesome suppressed host. Now, one thing I am going to show you here that is kind of just the fact that this is an iron sight gun. You are going to have to shoot through the suppressor essentially. I'll try to insert a picture off to the side here and see if I can show you this a little bit better, but your iron sights are going to be looking at the back of the suppressor. But as you've seen there of me, or the footage of me shooting it suppressed, you can aim it. Now, I didn't show me shooting any of the smaller targets. I just shot at the silhouette at 30 yards. But I did shoot this quite a bit off camera suppressed, and it is just as easy. Well, I'm not going to say just as easy, but it's easy enough to hit small targets, with the iron sight still, even not being able to see clean through them. It's just kind of something you learn how to do, and it works just fine. So overall, this makes an awesome little suppressor host, makes an awesome little plinker even without the suppressor. It looks all nice and cool and kind of classic, I guess, and overall, really nice gun. Pretty smooth, has a really nice trigger pull on it. Like I said, the reset's a little bit odd on it, but the brake on it's nice. It's all nice and smooth. Overall, the gun runs very well with the right ammo. I feel like if you pick one of these little guns up right here, you're going to have an absolute blast with it, and that's all I had for today. Okay, if you made it this far, I just want to say thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. If you're looking for more FunNGun right now, you can click one of the 2 recommended videos there. If you're looking for more FunNGun later, you can go ahead and click that there subscribe button. I sure would appreciate it. And if you're finding me from Facebook, go ahead and click that open app button at the top to make all that a lot easier, and I'll see you next time.